For a few frightening hours, the internet made it feel as though Hollywood had just lost one of its greatest living legends, Meryl Streep. Her name began appearing beside words no fan ever wants to see. Gone, rest in peace. Hollywood legend dead. People searched for confirmation. Fans opened social media expecting to find an official statement. Old clips of The Devil Wears Prada, Mamma Mia, Sophie's Choice, and Kramer vs. Kramer suddenly carried a completely different emotional weight. But there is something you need to know before we go any further. As of August 15, 2026, there is no credible report that Meryl Streep has died. The death claims circulating online are false. In fact, she was publicly active just days ago, and recent reporting showed her working and appearing around current projects. And strangely, that makes what happened even more revealing. Because millions of people did not simply react to a rumor. They reacted to the terrifying thought of what the world would feel like without Meryl Streep. And perhaps that is the real story. Because after more than 5 decades of performances, heartbreak, reinvention, family, private losses, public triumphs, and characters that seemed to live long after the credits ended, Meryl Streep has reached that rare point where people don't merely recognize her. They feel as though she has somehow been present throughout their lives. Tonight, we're going beyond the rumor, back before the Oscars, before Miranda Priestly, before the accents, the gowns, the standing ovations, and a reputation as perhaps the most respected actress of her generation. Back to the young woman who could never have known just how many people would one day be terrified by the possibility of saying goodbye. Picture this for a moment, not as a documented event, but as a scene, an old American movie theater after midnight. The audience has gone home. Popcorn boxes are scattered between the seats. The enormous screen is blank. Then, one by one, Meryl Streep's characters begin appearing on it. Joanna Kramer, Sophie Zalistowski, Karen Silkwood, Karen Blixen, Francesca Johnson, Donna Sheridan, Margaret Thatcher, Miranda Priestly. Women separated by countries, generations, accents, ambitions, tragedies, and completely different lives. Yet one face connects them all. And then the screen goes dark again. That imaginary theater explains something about Meryl Streep that statistics never could. She didn't spend her career playing one version of herself. She disappeared. Again, and again, and again. Long before she became Meryl Streep, she was Mary Louise Streep, born in Summit, New Jersey in 1949. There was no Hollywood dynasty waiting for her. No famous surname opening studio doors. What she did have was curiosity, intelligence, discipline, and eventually a realization that acting offered something irresistible. The chance to step outside herself. She studied at Vassar College and later earned her Master of Fine Arts from Yale. After school, she threw herself into theater, establishing a reputation for extraordinary range before Hollywood fully understood what it had found. Within only a few years of beginning her professional career, she had reached Broadway, won an Emmy for Holocaust, and received an Academy Award nomination for The Deer Hunter. That rise sounds effortless when compressed into a few sentences. It wasn't. Acting careers are built from rejection as much as applause. Audition rooms. Waiting. Being judged in seconds. Being considered too ordinary by one person and too unusual by another. Watching opportunities disappear. Getting one chance and knowing hundreds of other performers want exactly the same chair. Meryl's great advantage was not that everybody immediately understood her. It was that she kept developing, whether they understood her or not. And then came a film that changed everything. Kramer vs. Kramer. The easy version of the story is that Streep played Joanna Kramer, won an Oscar, and became a star. But the character mattered because Joanna was uncomfortable. She was a mother who leaves. In another actress's hands, the audience might simply have hated her. Meryl looked for the wound underneath the decision. The confusion. The suffocation. The guilt. The part of a human being that can love someone and still feel desperate to escape the life built around that love. That became one of the signatures of her career. She did not ask you to approve of her characters. She asked you to understand them. Then came Sophie's Choice. And after that, any debate about whether Meryl Streep was simply another talented actress began to disappear. Sophie was a survivor carrying something almost impossible to communicate. trauma that could not be neatly explained, grief that didn't leave because the scene ended, a past that followed her into every room. Streep's performance won her another Academy Award and became one of those performances young actors would study for decades. But success has a strange cruelty. The better you become, the more people expect the impossible. One great performance creates excitement. 10 great performances create a standard, and eventually, excellence becomes the minimum people demand from you. Imagine carrying that for 40 years. Every film, every premiere, every review, every new accent, every transformation. People stopped asking, "Will Meryl Streep be good?" They began asking, "Will she be Meryl Streep good?" That is a very different burden, and behind the professional ascent was a private heartbreak that came before much of the fame. Actor John Cazale, remembered for films including The Godfather and Dog Day Afternoon, was Meryl's partner in the 1970s. Their relationship was serious. Then, Cazale became gravely ill with cancer. Meryl stayed close to him during his illness. He died in 1978. She was still a young woman, with a career only beginning to explode, and she had already learned one of life's hardest lessons. Talent cannot negotiate with mortality. Awards cannot bargain for another year. Fame cannot protect the person sitting beside you. Loss doesn't care how promising your future looks, and maybe that is part of why vulnerability never disappeared completely from her performances, even when she was playing powerful women. Watch her closely. Power is almost never just power. There is usually fear beneath it, memory beneath it, loneliness beneath it. Something the character is protecting. Later in 1978, Streep married sculptor Don Gummer. They went on to have 4 children, Henry, Mamie, Grace, and Louisa. For decades, their marriage existed largely outside the constant spectacle surrounding celebrity relationships. In 2023, it became publicly known that Streep and Gummer had been separated for years. There was no endless television tour explaining every private detail, no carefully staged public feud, no attempt to turn a deeply personal change into entertainment. And that silence felt very Meryl Streep. Because fame has always surrounded her, but she has rarely seemed interested in surrendering every corner of herself to it. Think about how unusual that is. Some stars become famous because the audience feels they know everything about them. Meryl became famous while preserving the sense that you didn't. The public knew her characters better than they knew her breakfast routine. They knew Miranda Priestly's icy stare. They knew Donna Sheridan singing on a Greek island. They knew Francesca Johnson standing in the rain between responsibility and desire. But the woman behind those faces remained more guarded, and perhaps that mystery helped her last. Because while celebrity culture changed around her, she never had to chase every new version of celebrity. She only had to work. Then, in 2006, something remarkable happened. An actress already considered a dramatic legend became part of one of the most quotable, meme-able, endlessly replayed performances of the modern era. Miranda Priestly, The Devil Wears Prada. She barely needed to raise her voice. That was the genius of it. Most actors playing a terrifying boss would make the character louder. Meryl made her quieter. The softer Miranda spoke, the more everyone around her seemed to panic. A glance could destroy confidence. A pause could feel like a death sentence. 2 words could change the temperature of a room. And suddenly, a completely new generation discovered Meryl Streep. Teenagers who had never seen Sophie's Choice knew Miranda. Young adults who didn't know The Deer Hunter could quote runway magazine scenes. Parents who had followed Meryl for decades now watched their children become fans. That's longevity. Not surviving because people remember what you used to be. Surviving because new audiences keep finding a reason to care about what you are now. And 20 years later, she returned to Miranda Priestly again in The Devil Wears Prada 2, released in 2026. Streep continued working well into her 70s, rather than treating her career like a museum exhibit. But another role revealed a completely different side of her. Mamma Mia. Suddenly, the actress famous for emotional intensity was dancing, singing ABBA songs, running through sun-soaked landscapes, and reminding the world that greatness does not always need to look serious. Sometimes greatness is joy. Sometimes it's ridiculous. Sometimes it's standing on a rooftop, singing with your friends, and there is something beautiful about an artist secure enough in her reputation to stop protecting it. Meryl could play prestige drama, then sing, then do comedy, then play a political figure, then play a witch, then return to television. She never seemed to believe that one genre had ownership of her. That willingness to keep moving may be one of the biggest reasons her career survived eras that destroyed countless others. Hollywood changed. She changed with it without becoming unrecognizable. And behind all of those transformations sits a number almost impossible to comprehend. 21 Academy Award nominations. 3 wins. The National Women's History Museum describes that 21st nomination earned for the post as a record unmatched in Academy history. But here's the strange thing about numbers. Eventually, they become too large to feel human. 3 Oscars. 21 nominations. Decades of movies. Hundreds of characters and collaborators. Those statistics tell you she succeeded. They don't tell you what success cost. They don't tell you how many mornings began before sunrise, how many scenes required dozens of takes, how many scripts were rejected, how many months were spent away from home, how many times an actor of her age heard an industry obsessed with youth quietly suggesting that fewer roles would be available next year. Hollywood has historically been brutal toward aging actresses. Men are often allowed to become distinguished. Women are too often asked to remain young forever. Meryl did something more powerful. She aged in public without apologizing for continuing to exist. Her characters became older because she became older. Their faces contained history. Their voices changed. Their bodies changed. Their experiences changed. And rather than pretending time had stopped, she made time part of the performance. That's why the recent death rumor felt believable for a terrifying second to so many people. Not because Meryl had disappeared, but because people suddenly remembered that even the stars who seem permanent are human. She turned 77 in June 2026. And she's still working, still being photographed, still connected to major productions, still supporting causes she believes in. In March 2026, the National Women's History Museum announced that Streep had made a 7-figure gift supporting its work to preserve and amplify women's history. The museum has also created a Meryl Streep Educator Award connected to educators expanding how women's history is taught. Think about that transition. Young Meryl once entered rooms hoping someone would give her a chance to tell a story. Decades later, she is helping ensure other women's stories are not forgotten. That is a different kind of legacy. And now imagine another fictional scene. A young actress sits alone outside an audition room. She's 23. Her hands are shaking. Through the wall, she can hear another actress reading the exact same lines she's about to read. She wonders whether she's beautiful enough, interesting enough, talented enough, whether she should go home, whether everyone was right when they told her acting was impossible. Then she remembers Meryl Streep. Not the Oscars, not the gowns, not the record. She remembers that Meryl's career was built one character at a time, one risk at a time, one room at a time. So the young actress stands up when her name is called. That scene may be fictional, but somewhere in the world, versions of it have probably happened thousands of times. Because influence isn't only measured by who buys a movie ticket, it's measured by who decides to try because you proved something could be done. And Meryl proved that intelligence could be compelling. Complexity could be commercial. A woman did not have to play the same type of character forever. An actress could age and remain relevant. Comedy did not diminish dramatic credibility. Television did not diminish film greatness. Prestige did not require pretending you were above popular entertainment. She could be Sophie. She could be Miranda. She could be Donna. And somehow, none of them erased the others. But there is another chapter people sometimes overlook. Meryl Streep has also repeatedly used moments of enormous visibility to speak about issues beyond herself. That has occasionally brought praise, other times criticism. Because the moment a beloved performer speaks politically or socially, part of the audience often wishes they would remain only a performer. Meryl has never completely accepted that limitation. She has supported women's rights, arts, education, historical preservation, and numerous humanitarian causes throughout her public life. And whether someone agrees with every position she has taken or not, her willingness to risk criticism tells you something important. She never seemed satisfied with being universally comfortable. That's reflected in her acting, too. The safest version of an actress with Meryl's reputation would have spent the later years of her career protecting the legend. Only prestige projects, only dignified characters, only performances designed for awards. Instead, she kept playing, sometimes strange, sometimes funny, sometimes glamorous, sometimes ridiculous, sometimes heartbreaking. That may be the biggest lesson in her story. Don't become the monument while you're still alive. Keep moving. And that's why the false reports of her death should remind us of something. We have developed a strange habit in the internet age. A celebrity trends. Someone posts RIP. Another person copies it. A video appears with dramatic music. A thumbnail adds a black and white photograph. Within minutes, a rumor begins looking like history. And then people grieve before anyone has checked whether there is actually something to grieve. Meryl Streep is not dead. The evidence points in exactly the opposite direction. In early August 2026, she was seen in a video with Gary Halliwell Horner connected to the only murders in the building set, and in July she appeared publicly with Martin Short in London. So this story should not end with a funeral. It should end with appreciation. While the person is still here, while another performance is still possible, while another interview might happen, while another generation can still discover her. Maybe we shouldn't need a death rumor to remember what someone has meant to us. Maybe that is the uncomfortable truth behind why these stories spread so quickly. Death makes us review a life. But gratitude doesn't need death's permission. You can watch Kramer vs. Kramer tonight. You can watch Sophie's Choice and understand why generations of actors still speak about that performance. You can laugh at Miranda Priestly. You can sing along with Donna Sheridan. You can watch the Bridges of Madison County and feel the unbearable weight of the life someone chooses against the life they secretly imagine. You can watch The Iron Lady, Julie and Julia, Doubt, Out of Africa, Silkwood, The Post, August, Osage County, or any of the dozens of worlds Meryl Streep has entered. And somewhere during that marathon, something becomes clear. There is no single Meryl Streep performance. That's the point. The disappearing act is the legacy. Some stars build careers by giving audiences exactly what they love. Meryl often built hers by asking audiences to follow her somewhere unfamiliar, into another accent, another century, another moral dilemma, another marriage, another grief, another personality. Then she disappeared and started over. Again, and again, and again. So when the internet suddenly whispers that someone like Meryl Streep is gone, our first reaction shouldn't be to rush toward the most dramatic headline. It should be to ask whether it's true. And in this case, it isn't. What is true is arguably more interesting. At 77, after a career most performers could barely imagine, Meryl Streep is still part of the story. Still acting. Still inspiring debate. Still surprising audiences. Still supporting the preservation of women's history. Still reminding Hollywood that longevity isn't about refusing to grow older. It's about refusing to stop growing. And perhaps someday, hopefully many years from now, when the real moment of goodbye eventually arrives, people will speak about the Oscars. They'll talk about 21 nominations. They'll replay Miranda Priestly. They'll show Sophie. They'll play ABBA. They'll remember the accents. They'll remember the awards. But I suspect the thing people will miss most won't be any single character. It will be the certainty that whenever Meryl Streep appeared on screen, something worth watching might happen. For more than 50 years, audiences have had that certainty. That's rare. And maybe that's why a false goodbye could hurt before it was even real. Because some performers entertain us, some become celebrities, a tiny few become markers of time. You remember where you were when you first saw their movies. You remember watching them with parents who are no longer here. You remember introducing those movies to your children. Suddenly, their career overlaps with your life. Meryl Streep became one of those people. So no, this is not Meryl Streep's obituary. It is something better. It is a reminder to appreciate the legend before the legend becomes a memory. If Meryl Streep has ever made you laugh, cry, think differently, or simply forget your own world for 2 hours, tell us which performance meant the most to you. Was it Sophie? Miranda? Donna? Francesca? Margaret Thatcher? Julia Child? Or a performance almost nobody else remembers? Write the movie and the character in the comments, because somewhere, someone reading your comment may discover that performance for the first time. And that is how great work survives, not through rumors, not through viral headlines, through people passing stories to one another. One generation to the next, and after everything Meryl Streep has given the screen, perhaps the most fitting thing we can say today is not goodbye. It's simply this. Thank you, Meryl. We're glad you're still here.